Tonight in the news, we have more updates on the manufactured terror plot, the alleged assassination plot against the Saudi ambassador. Paul Watson writes, the assassination plot was pushed by a DEA informant. The suspect, our Bob Shear, thought he was involved in a drug deal. This was tied allegedly to the Iranian government as well as Mexican drug cartels, according to Attorney General Eric Holder, himself under fire for the Fast and Furious scandal tied to gun walking with Mexican drug gangs. A great smokescreen as they try to flare up for war in the Middle East with Iran. Now, we have numerous intelligence officials, people from the intelligence community, who've come forward to warn that there was no good intelligence on this plot, and it looks dubious. FBI insider, Obama administration likely manufactured dubious terror plot. Now, you heard on the program today Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer saying he spoke to an FBI insider who said there was no files linking this plot anywhere inside the Department of Justice, files that it was most likely just cooked up for political purposes. You also have Robert Bayer, intelligence official known for the movie Syriana. He wrote a column in Time saying the Iranian plot is nothing more than a bad Hollywood script, that it doesn't match the character of Iran's extremely professional killers, despite the fact they tried to link this Iranian-American used car salesman to the elite Qud force from Iran. Columnist Saman Mohammadi says it's more like a Bollywood script than a Hollywood script. Then you have Ray McGovern, longtime CIA official and former presidential briefer, saying Petraeus's CIA fueled the bad intelligence, allegedly linking this suspect to Iran, saying basically there was no intelligence and that the only hard evidence were recordings of him talking about using a car, selling a car, which they claim was a code word for the assassination plot. All bogus stuff, but of course you have Republican Congressman Peter King and others saying this was an act of war, just gearing up for action in the Middle East with Iran. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Meanwhile, there's more in the gunwalker scandal, even as Attorney General Eric Holder is about to be subpoenaed to testify. There's the grenade walking scandal within the gunwalker scandal. I believe we have a clip. CBS News reports that there's a new twist in the government's gun-walking scandal involving an even more dangerous weapon, grenades. And it goes on to explain how the suspect who shipped hundreds and then later thousands of grenade parts to Mexican drug cartels was repeatedly stopped but not prosecuted. One ATF agent even told investigators he literally begged to prosecute the suspect Kingery and keep him in custody, but he was ordered to let Kingery go. So again, deliberate interference from officials at the Department of Justice, the ATF, and others. Now, Obama and even President Calderon out of Mexico have been on this meme of illegal weapons being shipped to drug cartels since at least August 2009. Then our investigators dug up clips from even earlier in the year 2009 talking about the gun-running, gun-walking scandal. So there's Holder originally saying he only knew about the program maybe a few weeks ago, a nebulous, non-specific term. He's been asked to revise his testimony and admit that he knew about it long before. Now, we have a clip coming up of David Ogden, the former Deputy Attorney General, talking about the gun-walking project much, much earlier, and there's no way Eric Holder didn't know. There they are, admittedly using your tax money to ship guns down there just to set up the Second Amendment. Keep in mind that back in March 30th of 2011, Obama met with Jim and Sarah Brady of the Brady Center and commented that he was working under the radar to attack the Second Amendment. So now we see it in action, and we're going to continue as this We're going to continue to watch as this scandal unfolds. Eric Holder certainly under heat, but I would imagine this goes much deeper as well. In other news, the Occupy Wall Street and other Occupy movements across the country have met new resistance as police in various locations have tried to get protesters to move. That effort failed in New York, even though there were several arrests. In Denver, they arrested 24 people, I believe. Now, all these Occupy protesters are a very diverse group. I don't know who these individuals were who were arrested. They really imply that they're blocking the street, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. Whatever you think of them, though, they certainly have a right to protest, to be heard, even if it is a prolonged protest. So police should really use caution in trying to break up what's going on there, because these are people trying to speak for everyone, whether or not they do represent them. In other angles of the same Occupy Wall Street movement, Michael Chossudovsky has written about Occupy Wall Street and the American Autumn. Is this a colored revolution? We know there's been really the same steering groups behind a number of the color revolutions, first in Serbia, then later the whole Arab Spring thing you saw that started in Egypt and Tahrir Square and moved on to other countries. Now, there's been a lot of talk and investigation and analysis behind that of the foundation groups and even the State Department supporting, sponsoring, and kind of pushing forward the groups that would steer these. So is that going on here in the Occupy Wall Street movement? A good question. And for more on the Occupy movement, we turn now to Rick Warden, who has been occupying the Dallas Federal Reserve for a week now, ever since Alex did a rally there last week. Rick, thank you for joining us, and give us an update, please, on the Occupy movement there in Dallas.
We have a handful of strong lovers of liberty who are committed to being at the Occupy the Fed Dallas as often as they can. So we have successfully maintained an occupation. Saturday night, the rally was on Friday, October the 7th. Saturday night, October the 8th, it was a downpour. A gusher came. It rained all night long. It was really nasty and rained most of the day Sunday. So that really put a damper on our occupation. But we are there holding it, and we are going to continue to occupy the Fed here in Dallas.
Now, they continue to have fairly large Occupy various cities across the country as part of the other part of that movement. The Federal Reserve movement doesn't have the numbers, but I assure you that presence sends a big message to the authorities in those buildings. We know Richard Fisher last week was talking about how he sympathizes with the Occupy protesters, how he's trying to help them with jobs. You know, just on the heels of Alex bringing a lot of people to that rally. Now this week, he says the Fed's already done all they can do to help with jobs. So it continues to be up to protesters like you to spotlight the problems the Federal Reserve is causing systematically.
That's correct. And what are you going to do? We're just having fun with it. We would like for Richard W. Fisher to just come on down and be the next contestant on the Occupy the Fed Dallas program. We'll get it on video and give him an opportunity to answer openly and honestly some questions for, you know, those people that don't have jobs.
Sure. Now, you mentioned before when we were talking, getting ready for this interview, how many of the Occupy Dallas protesters have very similar frames of mind. There's different groups within that group, but many of them have already marched to the Fed. They did so a week ago, even ahead of Alex's rally, and they continue to be part of the subset movement, Occupy the Federal Reserve.
That is correct. They won my heart over for sure. On their first march, they met at JFK Plaza. So, you know, that's a shock to the system right there. You know what I mean? And then their first march was to the Federal Reserve building in Dallas with, they said their numbers were 1,000 to 1,500. There should be videos on YouTube. So they gave a straight shock to the system and went straight for the throat of the beast on their first day here. That's correct.
Yeah, now we know the larger Occupy movement, there's been factions on the left trying to co-opt what's going on, but we know many of the people on the ground have their own views. Do you have any indicators as to what direction the larger Occupy movement is headed?
Well, yes. We watched the video last night with Judge Napolitano where it's a letter or a message to Occupy Wall Street where he basically compares the Tea Party and he did a good job recognizing Ron Paul as the originator of the Tea Party and how the Love Revolution had an official Tea Party with Ron Paul present in his district in Lake Jackson. And so he recognized that and showed how it had been co-opted, compared that to the Occupy movement, and I think sent a real message to the people that do have the same spirit that we have that are in this movement.
Sure, yeah. At the higher levels of the hierarchy, we've seen people as high up as Al Gore endorsing, an Arab Spring type movement in the U.S. We know they want to take a lot of that energy and fuel Obama or whoever might be leading the Democratic Party by next year, but there's so much else going on that movement. And I think it's just very encouraging that they continue to have a presence in cities all across the states, including Dallas. Now, what did you think of the rallies themselves for Occupy the Federal Reserve that took place last week? Alex kicked it off in Dallas. There was one in San Antonio, Houston. They've been in other cities across the U.S. as well, notably Boston, where there was thousands of people protesting outside. What kind of signal do you think that sends to the system, Rick?
It's obviously a wonderful shock to the system. We know who we're dealing with. We're dealing with crooks. We're dealing with people that just do not know the concept of being honest and open and fair. And so, they've obviously done a fine job of establishing their programs in this society today. But people are waking up. That is obvious. And when you do the types of things that we are doing, occupying the Fed around the nation, yes, what to expect from it, I don't really know. But I know that right now, today, we have the attention of the people that we need.
Mm-hmm. And we know police across the country in New York City and Denver have begun to move many of the Occupy protesters away from the places they've been. There have been a few arrests across the country. You told me before they plan to relocate the Occupy Dallas movement coming up on Sunday, I believe you said. Has there been any interference at all at the actual Federal Reserve, which, of course, is private property?
No, there hasn't. They've been peaceful, and we're appreciative for that. We have not asked for their assistance on any of our demonstrations, and we're good with that. They're good with that. Everything's good. What happens as this movement continues to grow, we'll see then. But I trust that the movement is a right movement, and we have right on our side. So we have every reason to be courageous and bold and confident that we're accomplishing wonderful things that are going to be very beneficial.
Now, there's been some Ron Paul protests going on in Dallas as well. Could you tell us about that, Rick?
Thank you, first off, to Dallas for Ron Paul, the Ron Paul meetup group. They've been very warm to the Occupy the Fed Dallas movement. I'd like to see more of them out here, but, that's just how it is. Everybody has jobs and busy lives, so I'm thankful for every person that comes. And I do strongly believe that the Ron Paul supporters are on their way. I think everybody right now has been waiting for a week to see what's actually going to happen with this movement and see what's going to happen with the Occupy movement. And I think now, thankfully, to you, Aaron, and Alex Jones, and y'all getting the word out that we are actually there. We have feet on the ground here in Dallas. And so people are coming. I know they are, and we look forward to seeing y'all here.
Exactly, and your continued occupation of the Dallas Federal Reserve really puts a spotlight on the true root cause of the systematic economic problems that we face, that all these movements are trying to address in one way or another. And of course, we need more people to come down there. The Ron Paul factions have been protesting the Federal Reserve since at least 2007. I think that, too, sends a great signal, and we just hope more people will join you there in Dallas or at Federal Reserves all across the country. Thanks so much, Rick Warden. Continue to occupy, please, and we'll be back after this break with more on the InfoWars Nightly News. Stay tuned.
If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the InfoWars store at InfoWars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe InfoWars T-shirts. We've got the incredible Pro Pure gravity-fed filters available at InfoWars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there, wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at InfoWars.com today. The water filters, the canteens, it's all there, InfoWars.com.